All right, Mr. Mayor, we're recording and we're live on YouTube.
All right. This meeting can be accessed via Zoom or the city's YouTube channel. If there's anyone who would like to address City Council or comment during this meeting, you must access the meeting via Zoom to comment. For safety precautions, if you would like the Zoom link to join the meeting, please email the Clerk of Council at kzeming@wyomingohio.gov. This information about how to obtain the Zoom link has been included on the City Council agenda for tonight's meeting, which is available on the city's website. When joining via the Zoom link, please raise your virtual hand to comment or address City Council. I would like to call to order this meeting of the Wyoming City Council. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Averett?
Here.
Ms. Stancorp Taylor?
Here.
Mr. Delgado?
Here.
Mr. Leroy?
Here.
Mr. O'Reilly?
Here.
Mayor Hoffmeister?
Here. There is one item on the consent agenda, approval of the March 15th, 2021 City Council meeting minutes. Do I hear a motion with respect to the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Aye.
Having been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
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 Those opposed? The motion carries. Are there any questions or comments on the special reports?
I did have a question.
Hmm?
This one's for Rusty. In the police report, there seemed to be, at least to my memory, is a bit of an uptick in identity theft. Is this just a coincidence, or am I wrong? Or is there something else going on here?
We have had a considerable amount of identity theft involving the unemployment claims. So there's been a significant uptick in those. So that's mostly what you're seeing there. There was a lot of abuse around all the unemployment claims in the state, and that's why you're seeing an uptick.
So people are using someone else's identity to apply for unemployment. That's how it's working.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I saw that and I wondered.
Yep.
Just personally speaking, I have my HR department call me and ask me, looks like you're still employed, Thaddeus, so we're going to deny this claim. So it's very common. I would also note that Governor DeWine had his identity stolen as well. So yeah, I would be on the lookout for that.
Wow, that's cheeky to steal DeWine.
I agree. Yeah. Okay. Jim, do you have a report from OKR for suburbs?
First Suburbs is having its quarterly meeting on the 29th by Zoom. I invite anyone who wishes to participate to come along with us virtually for that discussion. We'll be talking about ways in which the suburbs can articulate their views more specifically. And I'll be giving a presentation regarding a number of issues on the implementation of the American Rescue Plan and how it will apply to communities in the first suburbs.
Okay. We will now hear a report from the acting city manager.
All right. Spring cleanup. We'll have our spring cleanup of yard waste. It will be this weekend on Saturday, April 24th. Items can be placed at the curb now, but everything needs to be out by 6 a.m. on Saturday. All yard waste items need to be bundled and tied, bagged in proper lawn bags, or placed in a trash can with handles and a lid in order for it to be picked up. No stickers are required for this one-day only event. Also, just so you know that the Public Works crew has planted 98 new trees, consisting of 13 different species at various locations throughout the city. Last weekend was our first pop-up dog park event of the season at the Village Green. If you missed it, the next one will be on May 14th through the 16th. The dog park Runs Friday at 4 p.m. until Sunday evening for you to enjoy the park with your pooch. And lastly, don't forget to subscribe to the city's YouTube channel. We're up to a whole 41 subscribers, but I know we can do better than that. We have posted over 50 different videos on our YouTube channel. We're routinely adding videos. So if you want to make sure you're getting to see the most recent videos, subscribe to our YouTube channel and it'll keep you caught up on what's going on. And that's all I have, Mayor.
So you're saying you have more videos than subscribers?
Currently, yes.
I
But I
will
know-
subscribe. I've
I
been
know
negligent. I
after
will
this
subscribe.
conversation, we will have more subscribers.
I'll subscribe. Okay. Are there any council committee reports not otherwise on the agenda?
Yes. I have, we had a Streets and Roads Committee on April the 15th, and I would like to report on that particular committee. In attendance was Thaddeus Hoffmeyer and Jim O'Reilly, and staff was Rusty Herzog and Terry Huxell and Jeremiah Caudell. The discussion of streets and roads, what we attempted to try to do during that meeting is begin to look at roads that needed repair throughout the city. There was a list of roads that was given to the committee to look at and that were in need of repair. And Terry Huxell explained how the list was created and maintained. Mr. Caudell explained how the funding measures on the use of the streets and repairs and the maintenance components and how we were able to use government funding to support many of those repairs. Mr. Huxell shared that the street in need of most repair at this point, and which could be financially managed to work on first, would be Clark Avenue. All members present agreed to recommend that Clark Avenue should be reconstructed in the 2021, which would include a total reconstruction of the streets, the curbs, the driveway aprons, the water mains, and water service lines. We'll be presenting that information to you at the Committee of the Whole on April the 26th. It was also noted that Vermont Avenue is in need of repair and replacement as well, and will remain at the top of the list. And however, SCIP money, which would be state capital improvement funding, would be necessary in order to facilitate the work for Vermont. At the under the miscellaneous, Mr. O'Reilly had 3 areas that he presented and or discussed: through the valley, I-75 reconstruction, electronic vehicles, and train noise. Mr. O'Reilly, I don't know if this is where you would like to share your thoughts.
Here, may I do so now?
Please.
First, Millsdale Avenue, the northernmost street, Hartwell. The other half of the street is our street, East Mill. The reconstruction of southbound I-75 in the project called Through the Valley will occur sometime in 2023 or 2024. Last week, the state capital budget for 21 and 22 was passed. And when that became final, I contacted the Ohio Department of Transportation, District Office 8, to ask them for a meeting to basically say, what can we do to prevent what looks to be a significant increase in westbound traffic on Millsdale/East Mill. By westbound, I mean that if the construction moves the exit of 75 south from its present location to the location apparently at the intersection of East Mills/Millsdale and Anthony Wayne. We foresee that trucks moving west, looking to get off Interstate 75 and onto State Route 4 would come across Millsdale, across the railroad tracks, enter the Wyoming Hartwell division, turn right on Burns, and then left on East Mills. This would have a significant effect on the traffic on Burns and on East Mills, and would be of grave concern to us. I've been involved with this for 8 years, KI and here. And so my objective is when Tommy Arnold is available, talk to Tommy, with the district engineer, talk to the district engineer about that, to see if there are ways in which Wyoming could anticipate the westbound truck traffic and remove that threat by having the state in its reconstruction force that traffic southbound on Anthony Lane so it does not come across. Now I realize it's easier to show this on a map, but if you just picture 75, Millsdale in a T, Millsdale would be vulnerable to significant westbound traffic. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about when I meet with Ohio District 8. What are the ways in which we can avoid that westbound traffic to prevent trucks from coming? Recall that as we laid out the laid out the Route 4, we laid out Route 4 with a certain number of traffic signals. We did not put a traffic signal at Mills and the Pike. Therefore, if this worst case were to occur, the trucks were to come west, the trucks would come to the Pike, not see a traffic signal, either turn right or left. They would turn on the Pike in a way that might be dangerous to our traffic. At least it would be upsetting people on Burns and people on Mills. So that's topic one. I don't have an answer now. I will be talking further to the folks at the Ohio District 8. Second point is train noise. Many of you know this. 14 years, I guess, on train noise. Southbound, we don't have control over the blowing of whistles as trains are coming to the intersection of Sheehan, which is entirely in the city of Cincinnati. We have no control over the southbound whistle. When the trains are going northbound, we have the opportunity to do what our friends in Glendale were able to do. That is to expend approximately $500,000 to replace the crossing gate at Wyoming Avenue, and also to close current intersection, close a current train intersection with Mulberry, Cooper, and Millsdale. We would hope to be able to close those and impose the gates so that the vehicles would not be able to go through into Laughlin until the gates were open. If we did everything perfectly, then we, like Glendale, would be able to prevent the northbound trains from blowing their whistles. I don't know to the extent you've covered what happened in Glendale, but they got a very large donation. They were able to close 2 of their streets. And as a result, Glendale was able to have the quiet zone. Quiet zone is a term used in the federal regulations. Those federal regulations, CSX is very familiar with them. CSX would rather not stop. So our goal will be to explore that further and consider whether it's worth it to the city of Wyoming to expend the funds to close those 3 roads and to invest the money in the gates, the extended gates. If it's not worth the money, we won't do it. Of course, the problem will be if we tell people we're spending $500,000 and the trains still come southbound, people will say, what did we get for it? The answer is we can do what we can with the northbound trains to reduce the blowing of whistles. We can't do anything because the city of Cincinnati entirely controls the Sheehan Avenue crossing, which is within the city. So those are 2 things I wanted to say. Oh, was there a third one?
The rechargeable car.
Oh, rechargeable cars. Yeah, there is new funding available in the America's Rescue Plan. The America's Rescue Plan will encourage the use of electronic vehicles and will encourage communities to have centralized plug-in stations for electric vehicles. The details are to be worked out, but getting that money for the creation of these parking lots with chargers would come from a significant effort on the city's part. I floated this at the meeting to get a feeling for whether people wanted to invest in this with the federal funds and some state and some local funds, or they wanted to do this or not. The reasons for doing it would be it enhances electronic vehicles and is appropriate for the environmental aspect. The negative aspects are, of course, we've just done an exceptionally good job at the recreation center, attracting larger crowds, more people parking, so we'll have fewer open spaces for persons to drive in and park their cars while the cars are being re-energized. We don't yet know the details, but we want you to know we're thinking about how that money might be available and what we might do with it or not do with it. That's the.
Thank you very
Just to
much.
clarify- I was just going to clarify one thing. We want the charging station, obviously, but in downtown mainstream green, on the green in Wyoming, they want to put it down at the rec center. So if you want their money, they want to dictate where the charging station goes. That's the big, I think, challenge.
I concur in that, yes.
Thank you, Jim. I respectfully submit the report for the Streets and Roads Committee. Thank you.
All right. Are there any special committee reports not otherwise on the agenda? All right, we have reached that point in our meeting where a citizen may express an opinion, make a statement, address a concern, or ask a question on any subject that is not otherwise on the agenda. If there's anyone who would like to address City Council, you must access the meeting via Zoom to comment. For safety precautions, if you would like the Zoom link to join the meeting, please email the Clerk of Council at kzeilman@wyomingohio.gov. This information about how to obtain the Zoom link has been included on the City Council agenda for tonight's meeting, which is available on the city's website. When joining via the Zoom link, please raise your virtual hand to comment or address City Council. Please state your name and address before addressing City Council. Comments will be recorded into the minutes and passed along to be addressed by the appropriate staff or City Council committee as needed. So do we have folks who would like to speak?
We do have one hand raised, and that's Debbie Bellman.
Yes, so this is Debbie Bellman again. I was at the last meeting, and we are still collecting signatures on a petition in support of Rusty Herzog as our city manager. And we do plan to complete our efforts by the next council meeting in May. So I really don't have anything extra to report tonight.
What number are you up to?
Well, we had a slow month. I'm not quite sure why, but we're over 200, but we're not quite where we'd like to be.
All right, you also have a hand up from Kathy Ramstetter.
Hi, good evening, Council. My name is Kathy Ramstetter, Dr. Kathy Ramstetter, and I live at 629 Little Lane with my husband, Tony. And I'm here today really because I'm in support of this movement to name Rusty Herzog as our permanent city manager. So thus I'm in support of this petition process. And it has been rather slow. We are a grassroots organization, as you know, or I might guess. But I wanted to, on that note, I know we have extended this to an external search committee, and I would trust that part of that process will include Rusty as one of the candidates who makes it to the interview process. Is there an update as to where the process is currently? And I don't mean by like who, I mean like, are we in still screening? Are we interviewing folks? And then the follow-up question to that would be, where can we as residents find regular status updates on this search at this point?
Great questions. We're baby stepping it, and we haven't even got the announcement out yet.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. Well then, Debbie won't be back here next month. She will be out of the area. I don't know if she's out of the country, but she will not be available. So someone from our small group will be here with an update as to our numbers of petitions. Part of this is because we don't have a way to collect them all in one place for hand sorting and sifting and verifying. So we will come to you with a little bit more verified numbers and where we are in the process in May. Thank you very much for your time and your service.
I don't see any other virtual hands.
Okay, we will now move on to the next item on the agenda, business section, the Urban Forestry and Beautification Commission Annual Report. Turn it over to Bobby Strangfeld.
Hi, can everybody hear me? Okay, I am Bobby Strangfeld, Chair of Urban Forestry Beautify Wyoming Commission. Once a year, UFBC updates Wyoming City Council on the commissioners' activities of the previous year. Here we go. Now, I need somebody to, Rachel's coming on, good.
That's the,
Okay, so we need to,
give us 1 second, Bobby. We'll get this up in just a second here.
okay.
There we go.
Okay,
All right,
let's
Bobby.
need to go a couple more slides. So change this slide. All right, that's the first slide. Here we go. We are 10 volunteer commissioners strong with a city staff and a council rep. The report says 1,000 volunteer hours, but we underestimated. We are a group of doers, and once we are finished with the project, it's difficult for us to remember that it took any time at all. This could be our only fault. We invite everybody to come to our events and volunteer days in Stearns Woods and monthly meetings as well. Next slide, please. In January 2020, our calendar was filled to the brim with problems. The arrival of COVID changed all of that. We started using the word cancel. Thanks to Jessica in the Wyoming Police Department, who designed this mask graphic, we started to get the idea of what was possible. Next slide, please. May was our last in-person UFBC meeting. Little did we know how much we had to learn. We soon began to appreciate Zoom. Next slide, please. Gail Basin, a commissioner who every year works with Public Works to design the planters around the city. Here is a little known fact about something that she does. The cannas in the planters are overwintered in a greenhouse and brought back to Wyoming every spring to beautify our city, all by Gail Basin with her red truck. Next slide, please. As soon as the leaves started coming out on the street trees in 2020, Todd Wales, the commissioner, was getting the hang of COVID and lockdown. He decided to take on the Wyoming tree inventory. Early each morning before his work from home started, he went out walking with the borrowed Wyoming GPS and systematically inventoried street trees. He logged 160 plus volunteer hours, walked at least 100 miles, and counted 5,014 trees. This huge accomplishment is key to the long-term sustainability of our urban forest. Next slide, please. Each spring, the city puts out a call for Beautify nominations. As the spring unfolds, we receive citizen nominations in 3 categories: trees, landscape, and historic preservation. During the summer, the commissioners take pictures, interview the winners, getting information for write-ups that will go into a formal award presentation ceremony at City Council in October, where winners are showcased and plaques are awarded. Next slide. UFBC planted a pollinator garden in the community gardens in conjunction with a workshop on pollinators. Due to the popularity of the gardens, UFBC gave their plot to a vegetable gardener. Next slide, please. Each October for the past 5 years, Wyoming has supported a regional reforestation initiative, Taking Root, by participating in a Make a Difference Day, a community tree planting event, which is part of the Taking Root initiative. In response to community tree planting, 2 tree planting groups, 2 Wyoming residents developed a native tree sale for Make a Difference Day event, reducing the financial risks that community tree planters can incur. This is not a fundraiser. Plants are sold at wholesale prices. This activity has proven very worthwhile for UFBC. The sale is a great way to meet other communities who plant trees with volunteers, but also to form relationships with other reforestation groups who are willing to share their knowledge and sometimes grant money. Next slide, please. A mini grant from Taking Root made it possible to begin a new phase of reforestation in Stearns Woods. On Make a Difference Day 2020, with volunteer help from Environmental Stewardship, we began planting an understory of plants, increasing diversity in the woods. In 2 hours, 16 adults and some kids planted 87 understory plants consisting of dogwoods, elderberry, pawpaw, buttonbush, and bottlebrush buckeye. Next slide, please. Here's a photo of our map showing the location of the plantings. And this past year's plantings were different than usual. We targeted certain areas to match the needs of those areas with the plants that were planted there. And this is something that will happen more and more once we start the understory phase. Page 11, please. UFBC commissioners can be seen planting, and some kids can be seen planting in the other photo. Page 12, please. Environmental Stewardship Council rep Sarah Stancorb and family are helping us plant during the 2020 planting, as well as Urban Forestry Beautify Commissioner Sean Creighton. He's planting a dogwood there. Next page, please. UFBC and ESC partnering to clean up the rain garden at the high school. This is an ongoing partnership that's been going on ever since the rain garden was established. Next slide, please. UFBC had one last volunteer day at Stearns Woods for fall cleanup, and it was a gorgeous day. There we are cleaning up. Next slide, please. During our many fall activities, UFBC made a presentation to the Committee of the Whole on a document that had been prepared for use for trees in construction. The recommendation was made that we present it to City Council in December. The document was adopted and it has been used on the Hilltop Park project. Next slide, please. At the same time, Wyoming was awarded the Growth Award from Tree City USA for having completed the tree inventory. This was only the second Growth Award in 25 years for Wyoming. Next slide, please. We decided that with only a few days left in 2020, we might as well apply for a Taking Root mini grant for Ritchie Preserve. Luck was with us. We were awarded a small grant for Ritchie. More on this project next year. Next slide, please. So what's coming? Sunday, May the 23rd from 1 to 4 p.m. we are hosting a Wyoming Blooms Garden Tour. The tickets are $10 and the tickets are going to be sold at the gazebo on the village green. So we look for all of you to come and enjoy beautiful gardens in Wyoming. Next slide, please. Thank you. And this is what I would like to say, that we are proud to be your supporters in getting things accomplished in Wyoming. Thank you so much for letting us do that. And that's the end.
Questions?
I'd just like to say thank you for the report. It actually makes me feel like ESC should do an annual report too. Just it's nice to see all of your accomplishments all in one place. And I just wanted to also thank you for the events that you were able to organize with the limited numbers that we had. Getting out there and planning. I think we had pop-ups and helping with the rain garden. It was just nice to get out and see people, even if you couldn't get close to people, and feel like you're accomplishing something for the city. So thank you to all of you who put in the effort to get that all put together.
Well, thank you, ESC, for supporting us and partnering us with a lot of the things that we do. Thank you so much. We enjoy your company.
All right, it is recommended the city council receive the report. Do I hear a motion with respect to the report?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
is there any discussion?
Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
Appreciate all your work, Bobby.
Thanks, Al. We miss you. We like Nancy, but we miss you, Al.
Well, thank you for all your work, and thank you for your work in the mini grants that you've done.
You're quite welcome.
Having been moved and seconded to receive the report, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
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 Those opposed? The motion carries. All right, now we're going to move on to the next item of business, the proclamation declaring April 30th, 2021 as Arbor Day in Wyoming. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this special day called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees and the urban forest are an important component of our community's infrastructure, and whereas trees in the urban forest make our neighborhoods more inviting and attractive, and whereas trees are ever a source of joy and spiritual renewal for all ages, and whereas the Wyoming Urban Forestry and Beautification Commission has provided the leadership necessary so that our fine city of Wyoming has been recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation, and the city desires to continue its tree planting ways. Therefore, I, Thaddeus Hoffmeister, Mayor of the City of Wyoming, on behalf of the City Council and the residents of Wyoming, do hereby proclaim April 30th, 2021 as Arbor Day in the City of Wyoming, and I urge all citizens to support efforts to protect and nurture our trees and conserve our woodlands, not just for the beauty they provide, but for the benefits they give our residents and community to support our city's urban forestry program. And further, I encourage all citizens to plant trees on their own property so to gladden the hearts and promote the well-being of present and future generations. Given under my hand this 19th day of April in the year 2021. Okay, the next item of business is the first quarter financial report. Turn it over to Jeremiah.
Good evening. Tonight I do have the first quarter 2021 financial summary. And as part of the report, the first four funds that I'll report on are where most of the city's financial activity takes place. And then there's some non-major funds that I'll talk about as well. Oops. So the first few slides will highlight the general fund. So general fund revenue in the first quarter of the year, just over $3 million, $3,018,000, and that compares to $2.9 million in the first quarter of 2021. As you can see, the majority of the city's revenue is comprised of property and income tax. At this point in the year, it comprises of 85% of the revenue that we received so far in the general fund. In terms of expenditures, the expenditures in the first quarter of the year are $1,875,000. And 78% of the expenditures at this point are expended by the police department, public works, and other operating costs. And the other operating costs consist of our pension liabilities, Social Security, Medicare, workers' comp, premium, and I'll make a statement about that in a minute, and our liability insurance. You can see here the percentages, and again, 78% are of the expenses are comprised in three departments. Just to give you a few highlights, income tax receipts were down 8.9% in the first quarter of the year compared to 2020. In terms of a number, that's down $124,000. And at this point in the year, it's my belief or estimate that income tax receipts will probably come in somewhere in the neighborhood of 5.8 to 5.9 million. That is better than what we budgeted, or better than anticipated in our budget. We budgeted just under 5.3 million for 2021. So far, obviously, income tax receipts have weathered the pandemic better than anticipated. But I do expect tax receipts to be down compared to total collections in 2020. Property tax receipts, if you see in the report that was provided to council, it looks like, I mean, in the report itself, it's showing the first quarter that tax receipts were a little bit less than in 2020, but we did receive our property tax settlement payment, which is basically a true-up process once we receive the advance payments of property taxes in February and March. And it looks like with that settlement, that property tax receipts are on pace to be up about 5% compared to 2020, and that's approximately $140,000. The city did receive, so as part of the COVID and pandemic relief, the Bureau of Workers' Comp provided a rebate to both government, public and private employers, and our rebate was $292,398, and as part of that rebate, they took out our workers' comp premium. So premium typically is about $100,000. So total rebate was about $392,000, and they took the 2021 premium out of that rebate. And as you can see with expenses, we're under pace in terms of the percentage of the year complete. So expenditures are as anticipated. And we're still, at this point, continuing efforts to keep expenditures down where possible so we can see more income tax receipts come in. Obviously, again, with the extension and the income tax receipts, or the extension of the due date, we won't have a final number of income tax receipts until the end of May, and then we'll have a better picture in terms of comparing to the last few years to see exactly where income tax receipts will come in. In terms of our recreation fund, revenue in the first quarter of 102,000. So revenue is still being impacted, really the operation and recreation is still being impacted by the COVID-19 restrictions. Revenue last year was 178,000 compared to, as you can see here, for the first quarter of this year, 102,000. However, there are still efforts to keep expenditures down in the rec fund. Last year in the first quarter, the expenditures were 237,000, as you can see here, they're just under 176,500 in the first quarter of this year. In our capital improvement and waterworks CIP funds, you can see the capital improvement fund of $397,000, and is made up of several projects. It's Cattleman, really the end of the turf field project down at the rec center on the Cattleman property. There's some engineering costs for the tennis courts and the civic center and the village green updates. So improvements, so the village green, some of that, the expenditures of 16,000 is related to the architect and design work. And our debt service, if you did look at that, it was a little bit higher in the first quarter. That is due to the delay in OPWC payments. So the July 2020 debt service payments were delayed by OPWC to help with cash flow due to COVID, and those payments were actually made in January of this year. So we're back on target in terms of our amortization schedule and our debt service. And water revenue for 2021, the first quarter is 525,000. So our water revenue continues to be strong as it was last year, and our expenditures are on target and as budgeted for 2021. And in terms of a couple of the non-major funds, so the street construction fund expenses were a little bit higher in the first quarter of this year. That has to do with the snow and ice removal. So the snowstorms, snow removal that we had this year, the personnel costs and labor to remove the snow, plus our snow and ice supplies were higher this year. As in the last few years, as you know, there hasn't been, haven't received much snowfall, so the expenditure has been down in those funds. And lastly, our health life insurance fund. So the city is self-insured for life insurance purposes, and our expenses in the health life fund have been higher than anticipated, and then compared to 2020, the expenses, let's see, in the first quarter of this year were this year, first quarter, were 362,000 compared to just under 190,000 in 2020. So and that is due to our medical claims running higher this year than they were last year. So that's all I have, unless there's any questions regarding.
A question, please.
Sure.
Jeremiah, could you please plan to report to us at the May meeting what use the city intends to make from the approximately $850,000 that will be received under the American Rescue Plan this May and next May, for a total of 1,600,000 and some thousand.
Right.
I'd like to have an update then at the May meeting of what we plan to do with it and what particular aspects of that funding we can plan for in next year's budget. Thank you.
Sure, I can give you really a kind of a brief update of what I know now. At this point, I mean, there's been some general categories of acceptable uses of those funds. We're still waiting for a full Treasury guidance or full guidance from the Treasury Department on getting us more specific information. In conversations I've had with Rusty, my recommendation or suggestion is that the city takes its time in deciding what to use those funds are. We have a 3-year period to utilize those. In some instances, like we did with the previous coronavirus relief funds, if we use those funds to offset public safety dollars, which was a allowable expense in the past, that will free up general fund dollars, and then those general fund dollars are then unrestricted and can be used on any project or expense that the city may be interested in doing. As you said, the total amount that we expect to receive is 800 and some thousand in roughly in May of this year, and then another 800 and some thousand 12 months later. So once we have some additional guidance and more clarity on what those funds can be used for, then we can provide more direct guidance on what we think we should be using those funds for. So that's kind of a quick summary of what we know at this point in time.
And ultimately, just to add, ultimately, City Council will be deciding how the funds will be spent.
Correct. Yes, Council will provide that. My guidance to Rusty is to also look at, there are other buckets of dollars that are being provided as part of this. And my recommendation will be to look at those other opportunities and try to maximize our ability to apply for those grants, gain dollars in that way first. And then, like I said, since we have 3 years to expend the other dollars, to look at those other opportunities and try to see what we're able to apply for and maybe be awarded. And then once those opportunities have been extinguished, then to look at spending the CARES dollars that American Recovery will receive.
Jeremiah, thank you, and I hope that you'll be able to give us an update on that at our May meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeremiah, I got 2 quick questions for you, and I think you answered the first one. Under other operating costs through March 31st last year, it was $750,000. This year it's $521,000. Is that solely because of the premium coming out of the rebate that you discussed?
The premium typically is about $140,000.
Yeah.
So it would be a big portion of it. It could be last year. I think we provided some CIC funding towards the beginning of the year. So some of it's timing. But the $140,000 is probably the biggest significant portion of the difference.
Okay. And then my second one is about the general fund revenue. Last year through March 31st, miscellaneous brought in $63,000. This year it's $328,000, which is about a 500% increase. What do you attribute that to?
That BWC rebate, so that check we received from BWC is in the miscellaneous category.
Okay. All right.
That's
good report. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Jeremiah.
You're welcome.
Quick question, Jeremiah, on the income tax receipts. Have you been able to tell, and I don't know if you're possibly drilling down this closely, if it appears individuals are simply reporting less income, like perhaps through lost jobs, or is it more just we're waiting, we have to wait for the tax deadline?
It's not that maybe individuals. I did one of the things I'm starting to do, or did do in March, is look at our businesses and our top withholders. Not really our businesses, but most of it's courtesy withholding. To look at our top withholders, whether they courtesy or businesses that are located in Wyoming, and look at the first quarter of 2021 compared to the first quarter of 2021. The difficulty that occurs with that, and it just happened maybe a week ago, is that last year in 2020 we received this particular withholding was about $82,000. Last year we received that payment at the end of March. This year we received it. It's technically due in mid-April, so we didn't receive it closer to the mid-April timeframe. So that alone, I think withholding was down maybe $120,000 in the first quarter of 2021. $80,000 of that was just a timing and payment. So it's difficult to really dig in down into those numbers until we have all of the withholding payments we would typically get, which will be by the end of this month. And then normally you can do a comparison once people file their tax returns of what their estimated income is for 2021 and compare that to 2020. But obviously, with the due date being extended, I can't do that now until the end of May. So once I have those numbers in place, I can run reports and compare what payments are we receiving for estimated payments for 2020, for 2021, what income are they declaring, and how does that compare to 2020? But until I can do that, I'm really just flat out guessing on what any change or anomaly is in the revenue.
Yeah, I feel like this is my quarterly opportunity to ask you to read tea leaves.
Yeah.
So just to make sure I tried that right. So the approximately 124,000 difference between this year and last year in the income tax, 82,000 was just roughly that amount was paid in April, so it just did not show up in the first quarter.
Right. And there were some other smaller withholders where there were some variances. So, I mean, there was nothing that was huge or really that stuck out that was significant that would say that we've lost, a portion of some withholding that we're not going to get this year. So really, I'm looking at what do people declare as income in 2021 and compared to 2020. And again, typically it's really something it'd be nice if we had a normal tax filing year.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to have to do really is when we look at May of this year through at the end of May, I'm going to have to really compare that to May of really the first 5 months of 2019, because in 2019 our total collections were about 6.5 million, just over 6.5. In 2020 they were 6.5 million, but the due date change last year means that the income that we would typically compare to is going to be much lower in that time period than it really should be. So I'll look back to 2019 and compare our total receipts through May of 2021 through May of 2019, and then see what variances there are. Because that, obviously in that time period, the due date was not extended. So we had, all the typical income and payments we would normally receive in that time period. So that's a comparison I'm going to do, and then I'll look at, again, the estimates that are being claimed, estimated income that's being claimed in 2021, and I can compare that to somewhat to 2020 in that first 5 months of the year.
Got it. Thank you.
Just,
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Any other questions? It is recommended that City Council receive the report. Do I hear a motion with respect to the report?
So
To
moved.
receive.
Any discussion? Having been moved and seconded to receive the report, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those opposed? The motion carries. Now we move to the section of new business not otherwise on the agenda. Does anyone have any new business not otherwise on the agenda?
I would like the minutes, which are part of the history of the city, to mark that we had a glad event and a sad event at our last meeting. The glad event is that Terry Huxell will be retiring. Terry's done a superb job, and I want the minutes to indicate how much we will miss him and how much we appreciate it. Is that Dr. J. Brad Bonham passed away. Dr. Bonham was very active in the city, came to many city council meetings, was very involved in so many city activities, and Brad Bonham will be missed. I want that to be entered into the minutes as well. So,
I would echo your sad and glad comments as well. Brad helped me both professionally and personally, so I want to give my condolences to her passing.
I agree with your comments. It's amazing what Brad Bonham did for the city of Wyoming that many people will never know. How many meetings she attended, how she helped us with problem solving, everything from a tree on Riley Road to a deer down in the village. She was very informative in all areas and really helped us process a lot of our urban forestry, and a lot of our beautification components are based on some of Brad Bonham's thoughts. So she's an individual in my mind that definitely will be missed in Wyoming. And I hope that we never forget her, I guess is what she will be missed, but I hope we never forget her because of what she's truly has done for the city of Wyoming and its and its forestry.
Yeah, I just want to add too, some people have heard me say that Brad's the reason I moved to Wyoming, but it's really true. I came here to write a story for Cincinnati Magazine and about the emerald ash borer, and I needed a local scene, and somebody connected me to Brad, and so I saw her give a presentation at the Newcomers Club, and also made mental note what a nice town Wyoming seemed to be. And then later when I moved here, Brad walked around my house and identified all the plants, of which there are many that I had no idea how to take care of. And in fact, just this week, I was thinking how much I could use her because I have a tree that doesn't look very good, and I know she would know what to do. And yeah, I'm really sad and kind of shocked that she's gone because she was really just incredibly knowledgeable about trees and nature and cared a lot about those things in Wyoming. So she'll be missed. And of course, Terry will be missed too. I saw him at the Upcycle Day and he looked very happy about his impending retirement. So, so yeah, anyway.
I mean, I'm not sure I can add much more other than to say, just so many meetings, Brad was there, volunteer events, Brad was there, wherever you go, Brad's there. And there's so many people just grieving her loss because in so many ways, for so many people, she was always there. And I don't know how to make sure that lives on in the community, but I know there are a lot of people thinking about ways to make a tribute to her.
Okay. Now we'll move on to the miscellaneous section. We'll start with Jeff.
Mr. Mayor, the only thing I have is that I tore my rotator cuff and had surgery last week as I continue to age. For those of you not there yet, I'll take care of yourselves. And that is all I have. Looking forward to committee of the whole agenda next week.
Tell us you were saving somebody in distress or you were maxing out on the bench.
The most commonly asked question is, what was I doing? And I think I was bench pressing, but I really don't have a moment where I can say that's what it was. The first time I remember it hurting was bench pressing. So
okay,
I'll go with that. Yes, sir.
Were you bench pressing at the dinner table?
We'll leave that part of the story out now.
Jim?
I've already spoken to the subject of the Millsdale I-75 issue. It's going to be a critical long-term issue long after I'm gone from council. And I'm going to give you a full report in May of what I learned from the project.
Nancy?
Well, I don't have a fancy sling or anything, but my back really hurts, Jeff, because I have been moving so much mulch in anticipation of this garden tour. So you guys all better come because not only have I mulched my own yard, which will be on the tour, but also the Fine Arts Center. So I'm probably going to be in the hospital by the time the garden tour happens, but I think it's going to be a great event. So I hope you guys can all come.
Sarah?
I have some waste reduction updates. So over the last couple of weeks, we had a free box free for all on a miserable rainy weekend, the worst possible weather we could have had. So that definitely impacted how much some people were putting out. That said, through the event, 34 people were able to give away up to 5 items. 26 people gave away between 6 and 12 items. 4 people gave away between 13 and 24 items. 4 people gave away between 25 and 35, and 7 people gave away more than 36 items. 14 people posted within the event and within Free Box itself, because I think they had special things they wanted to handle in a particular way. 11 people just used the regular Free Box, and 30 people participated after. So at some point during the week before Junk Day. Then Upcycle Day was at Oak Park, and I can share an injury. I have blisters on a bunch of my toes roaming around that day. But we should get the tonnage soon. It was especially busy in the morning. But we saw all sorts of stuff coming in, including a whole lot of paint. There was one woman that had something like 30 cans of paint that were in the house that she moved into. She was delighted to get rid of it. It took her 2 trips over, but she got rid of it. Someone dropped off a television that was more than 40 years old. So this is a whole lot of stuff that didn't have to get hauled away by Rumpke. I want to thank Goodwill, the Reuse Center, John King, and New Life Furniture, TerraCycle, Matthew 25, Eco Development, the Applied Art Center, Cincinnati, and Oil Express, the Environmental Stewardship Commission, all the volunteers who came out, including Nancy. She's probably also sore from that. And especially Patrick Walker, who coordinated with all of these partners and got them there at no cost to the city. I'm curious to see what amount of time was spent picking up for Junk Day and what the cost for that is to the city. Terry tells me I'll have those numbers soon, really soon, because he's leaving us. And at the ESC meeting, we all talked about how much we're going to miss him. He's kind of shepherded us through a journey of waste reduction, I'll say. But I know he has some pretty awesome travel plans, and I don't think he'll be sitting around wishing he was with us hauling garbage on Upcycle Day next year this time. But we're really, really going to miss Terry. And thank you, Terry, for all of your help, both to ESC and me, as you've been working with me on ESC for a few years now. So we'll miss you.
Al?
I will pass. Thank you very much.
Be safe. Look out for your neighbors. We will now move on to the excuse of absent members. Do I hear a motion to excuse Zach?
I move to excuse Zach.
Second?
Second.
Having been moved and second to excuse Zach, could the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Leroy,
Yes.
Mr. O'Reilly,
Yes.
Ms. Averett,
Yes.
Ms. Stancorp Taylor,
Yes.
Mr. Delgado,
Yes.
Mayor Hoffmeister.
Yes. Motion carries. There'll be no executive session tonight. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Having been moved and seconded to adjourn for the night, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
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 Those opposed? The motion carries. Council stands adjourned.